Hello and welcome. You're tuned to the Good Friday edition of the Leg Up, when we're coming to you live, your best hour of trackside television, as we preview the weekend's racing. We obviously have a big day at Ellerslie in store. Good Friday, they've got us on Good Friday, Steve. Do we get extra for that? This is Russ never sleeps on the Leg Up. Huge effort from the boys.
One of us sleeps on Good Friday. He normally sits in between us, but
yes.
No, we'll carry on, the three of us, no doubt.
Yeah, no Paul Whitey, couldn't make it again. Disappointing. No comment. How was last Saturday? What do we need to touch off?
Yeah, look, Tauranga was impacted by rain. It was downgraded throughout the day / afternoon to a heavy track. This is dramatic, was impressive.
Yeah.
Was in the right lane, come off a solid tempo down the outer. And interesting, because this is dramatic leading into the race, was fairly soft on race day itself because it just had no form on rain affected going. On Thursday and Friday, it's always a well-backed commodity. This is dramatic with the Go Racing Syndicate, but it was fairly soft or lukewarm late into the afternoon, but got the job done, so that's a valuable Group 2 victory for This Is Dramatic. I thought Hattrick continues his progression. Yes. Real auspicious type for the Tony Pike stable, continues to lift his ratings and go through the grades, ticking off 75 level off the front. And down south, a really good card at Riverton. Riverton, there's some really strong meetings this time of the year, through April and May, so that's something to look forward to. But I thought Mystic Park was really good over the 1400 metres, stepping up to open class, was 3-4 wide for mid-race, facing the breeze, and got the job done off the minimum of 54 kegs. So he's a progressive type. And I thought Perfect Scenario with the big weight was just as good. He is flying Perfect Scenario. He's just a very hard horse to place. That was 1400 metres. His wheelhouse seems to be 1600 metres, but he's barely... with his high rating, he's suitable to wait for age. I just don't think there's those races in the next 2 to 3 weeks down in Christchurch. But look, he'll have to carry the big weight in open class races, which makes it difficult. Yeah,
he sort of bucked the betting trend with him, with the big weight. The market, he ran better than the market thought he would, certainly. Perfect Scenario.
Well, we mentioned it on Friday that we're pretty happy to lay the horse at the current price at $4,420, and he eased all the way up to $556 from memory. So. Look, he ran above betting expectations, you'd say, because he did run second and behind Mystic Park, who carried the 54. But just hard horse to place.
Okay, let's head north to Hamilton, the third member of the team, the third member of the Leg Up team. He always turns up. One, Brendan Popplewell. Good afternoon, BP. Looked a toughish day at Tauranga there to be presenting with a fair bit of rain about.
Yeah, afternoon. It's a shame our part-timer can't join us for the show in Paul Mawati, but his loss, and we'll be able to push on through. But yeah, you're right. No, Tauranga was rather wet. Those days are always tricky in terms of having a bet, isn't it? And I guess with the no deductions, that has always been a godsend for those that do play early. And if you can find a day where, look, the forecast like that is going to turn, it really can work in your favour. There was some fields here that were really decimated by scratchings. I think you're right there, Stephen, around Hattrick's performance. I really did like the positivity from Michael McNabb with how that horse was showing good intent out of the barriers, and that was the winning of the race. Didn't cop the ground whatsoever, but there's something there with Hattrick, isn't there, with that winning performance on Saturday. Yeah, can't wait for the weekend because we head to Ellerslie once again, of course, for the New Zealand Thoroughbred Breeders' Stakes. Good fields throughout, and of course the news coming through this morning with the scratching of La Creek. So that just opens that race up a touch more, and Pearl of Alsace and co. But yeah, it really makes that race interesting now with no La Creek in our Group 1 feature to look forward to.
Yeah, shame to see you not lining up. Speaking of no deductions around La Creek, there's a race that you've had an early bet into the Thoroughbred Breeders. You'd be well on your side with yourself. BP, will come back to you. Who have you found as your maidener of the week this week?
I've gone to Matamata on Wednesday, and I did like the 2-year-old performance from a 2-year-old filly by Written Tycoon by the name of Boss and High Heels. Boy, this horse was really travelling sweetly here for Michael McNabb as he rolled into the race. The same can be said about the horse who's run second in this race too, an Amulet, and it's a runner you want to follow because that's the runner in the Narclay colours there for Warren Kennedy, who's down towards the rail, looks to brush the rail a couple of times. These two horses get away from the third horse who works home nicely in Viva Glam. Boss and High Heels, though, brought the right trial form. Really happy to say that maybe that track condition wasn't really to her liking because she showed real good acceleration on top of the ground through her trials. I think we can follow that race with enough confidence. There was a lot of trial form going in. There were some horses that certainly disliked the track conditions, but I think we can definitely follow those first three with a bit of confidence. Maybe with not what's coming up over the next sort of little while, but maybe as 3-year-old horses for next season.
You know, certainly hard in the market. The winner in particular was hard in the market there, and duly obliged. And that's not always the case with first starters. Matamata last Wednesday, few good winners. Anything that we need to touch on there?
Oh, I thought Tomodachi was probably the win on the day. I know BP's a big fan of his 3-year-old filly out of the O'Sullivan Scott stable, which is by Tarzino. You go back, it's the Ethereal family. Sir Peter Vella owns this horse and bred it, and yeah, she's very progressive, and she's rapidly going through the grade. She rated through the roof when winning at Taupo 2 starts ago, and she backed up that performance on an off track. The stable must have been fairly keen that she was going to operate on an off track, because they kept her in there. They could have easily scratched her and held her back for another 7 days or so, but she got the job done. And again, another progressive filly, and I don't know, maybe she's working back towards Queensland and Oaks or whatnot, but yeah, she's one to keep an eye on.
Yep, okay. Let's head to Ellerslie for Saturday, and we're going to start with weather and track conditions. Steve, what are we expecting? Get it right this week, please, because you were disappointing last week with your assessment of Tauranga.
Well, what can you say about Ellerslie? It's a good 4 rail out 7 metres. You go back to the last meeting, which was on the 9th of March, which was Auckland Cup Day. The rail was out 3 to 5 metres, depending what part of the track. So they've just gone out to 7 metres, but there's little rain to speak about. There's the odd shower this morning, if you're watching the show live on Friday, but in terms of race day, it should be a gorgeous day, and no dramas to the track, and play on a good track as well. So.
Yeah. Perfect. Race number 6 on the card, the NZEA, New Zealand Thoroughbred Breeders' Stakes, Group 1 for the fillies and mares, over the 1,600 metres. And as BP alluded to, we have lost La Creek this morning. Would have been roughly a 25% deduction, but because we're TAB customers, we don't have to worry about that. Stephen, run us through this market.
No, we don't. Pill of Alsace, now the default favourite, $3.20. In terms of best back runner, dollars-wise, she sits in the number 1 seed, and Pearl of Alsace at $3.20. Mustang Valley $4. Belclair, a well-back runner on Thursday, now shaving at $5.50 from the original quota $9. Grail Seeker, the one and only 3-year-old in the race, at $7.50, open at double figures. Town Crier 18 into 11, and Fashion Shoot best of the rest at $12 with Hi-Yo Sass Bomb. So, look, Pearl of Alsace was very well supported in the first 24 hours, but become quite static, and there's been a nice even spread around 4 or 5 other runners, including Town Cry in that middle range.
Yeah, okay, still a good field, even with the loss of La Creek BP. But let's start with Pearl of Alsace's win, resuming at Ellerslie. This was solid BP, is what you'd want to see from a mare like this, and she deserves a big win like the Thoroughbred Breeders, doesn't she?
Look, she does, because if you go back 12 months ago, she went into this race as a runner that was unbeaten, and she was very unlucky in this race 12 months ago at Pukekohe Park, where, you know, what could have been really with how she ran in that race 12 months ago. So she's a horse since then that we've seen her at the elite level, of course, placing in a race like the Livermore Classic, where she was very good. Of course, she went to Australia as well and raced with distinction there. We heard from the camp leading into that race that really she should be winning that race, and she got the job done. She did what she needed to do at a venue where the Group 1 race is going to be. So that's all good pointers, isn't it, for her coming into this race. She's a high-quality mare. She gets the right barrier draw. There's lots to like about her coming into this race. She has all the credentials to say that she's a deserved favourite. Yeah, I find it hard to go past her, and I just like the fact that she's had that sight her around Ellerslie, which is going to be a big pointer for her.
If she was going to get beat, it probably was over a mile first up, Steve, and they crawled, and she still managed to get over the top of them.
Yeah, I think the race shape suited her, because you present that she was first up. She actually hits her best second up. She's almost unbeaten. I think she's unbeaten 2 from 2 second up, Pearl of Alsace, and she's got a very good record as it is, regardless where she is in the preparation. But I think Michael will have plenty of options, as BP alludes. Decent draw. She can just sit in the first 4 or 5, a little bit of cover. Depending on the tempo, Michael will make his move. And yeah, it's hard to knock her. It is really hard to knock her. In terms of a best performance rating, it does sit, interesting enough, even though she's had the 5 wins from 7 starts at 1,600 metres, there's over 2,040 metres when she ran 3rd in the Livermore last year. So that's not to knock, but interesting enough, I thought that was her PB over 2,040 rather than the 1,600 metres. But yeah, hard horse to knock, deserving favourite, $3.20.
Okay, let's have a little look at the race at Tauranga, which was won by Fashion Shoot BP, but It was probably more interesting for the return of Mustang Valley. We know this is a quality Group 1 performer, Mustang Valley.
She is. And look, there's enough to take away from this race with St. Bathans, of course, backing up. And he ran with distinction, didn't he? He was put into the race last week and finished into 4th position. You've got Carmen Line, of course, who's coming underneath runners. And Mustang Valley is going to be better for this performance. So this was on a soft 5 track condition. Look, the key element that we always come to with Mustang Valley is that we know she excels at her absolute best when the tracks get to that 7, 8, 9, 10 bracket. She is, you know, a horse that is, you know, she just grows another league basically, doesn't she, when she gets into those track conditions. She's won a Group 1 this season over 1,600 metres on a heavy 10 in the arrow field. But she is a horse who can be still competitive though, and I think that's the key point that you have to make around her, is that she still has some form on the good 4 or even on that soft 5 range where she can run well. She's got herself a barrier draw. She was beaten in this race last year when the track was a good 4. Of course, she came back after running in the Doncaster, when she ran a great race on a heavy track when she finished into 5th position. She'd beat a number of high-quality horses home, and you just thought, wow, she's coming back to the thoroughbred breeders, climb in. And all climbed in. She closed around $2 somewhere in that market. She just never got into the race. I think she just sat back at the back end of the field and just never got into it. But I think with her draw here, I still don't want to be dropping her. I think she has to be a great top 3 chance still, with even if the conditions are presented for her, which you know, are not going to be her absolute best. But she's a high quality horse. I keep coming back to that she's a horse that knows how to compete at the elite level. So she must be a must and the top first up run, I thought.
I wish she'd run 3rd in that Doncaster, Mustang Valley. Anyway, sorry, I'm off topic. Must touch on Mustang Valley, Steve. And Fashion Shoot stepping to a mile, is that a concern around Fashion Shoot as well?
100% it's a concern with Fashion Shoot. Happy to take a set, $12 I believe. It will drift on race day. You just go back and look at that form line when she ran in the Westbury. In a similar field, won by Balclair. She ran home okay, but definitely her best ratings have been over 1,100 metres. And just a sticky gate round Ellerslie, barrier 9, they'll have to default back to the last third. So just happy to take a risk around Fashion Shoot.
Yep.
And Mustang Valley, similar. It was just a bunch finish at Tauranga, which is a little bit concerning.
Plenty of money on though. Plenty of money on.
Second
up. Mustang Valley, last start.
Last start there was, but it was a little bit dry in the important stages, the last 2 hours of trading. We saw that initial push around Mustang Valley. I think it opened close to double figures when she resumed and got into quickly around about that 650, and then she was just a bit static in that last hour or so of trading around Mustang Valley. So naturally there's going to be improvement. There's no dramas there. Barrier 2, Joe Doyle again will have options a bit like Michael McNabb on the fave. Yeah, there's no doubt her best ratings, her 3 best ratings happen to be on a rating 8 or worse. But always go back to that run around Mustang Valley a couple of seasons ago at Mudda, when the Arrowfield got transferred from Hastings to Mudda. And that was a genuine good track, and she ran home the best closing sectionals when finishing 2nd at La Creek. So she has it in her, and if she does, I think it's early in the preparation.
Okay, next race replay. Now, this is a key form reference, BP. It's Balclair in a Westbury Classic. It's good to see her winning on the track, on a similar track that she'll strike tomorrow, obviously.
That's right, and she positions up on speed. So she has that in her favour here again. She's got herself a good barrier draw. She's looking to back up, of course, after winning this race last year out of counties. I think she has to be a player purely on how this race can pan out for her. And now that she's had a victory round at this venue, she does keep bubbling under the radar, but this time around she is not going to be an underdog. She's going to be at a price where she probably should be, really, where she's going to be sitting around that 3rd or 4th line of betting. There'll be takers on her price, and if she can get that spot where she wants to, where she doesn't have to overdo it as well, she is a live chance. And look, the form around her, I mean, that race in itself, the Westbury Classic, Maria Farina, she beat home La Creek. You got Blissful Bell, who was also working into that race when finishing 6th. Carmen Line was beaten also in the Westbury Classic. So, yeah, she's got a huge chance of going back to back. I wouldn't be discounting her getting that soft and right run in the race.
BP sort of referencing the speed in the race, and you're pretty keen on Balclair yourself, Steve.
I am. I think she's one of 2 bets I'll be playing. Balclair, possibly wearing that 1x2 kind of play with Balclair. I don't think she leads. I think Town Crier, just from a few pairs higher in terms of the barrier draws, will come across and sit on the paint. With Belclair, she can obviously trail or go second outer like she did in the Westbury. Just forget she went round at Otaki. She hates a dark cloud. Firmer the better, so that's why she excels at Ellerslie. I think she's going to give them an almighty fright, and she's going to be very hard to topple and defend her crown, Belclair. So, yeah, as I say, she's one of 2 bets I'm having in the race.
Okay, very interesting. We'll talk about bubbling under the radar. This mare bubbles under the radar a little bit, BP, and I refer to Hayo Sassbomb. Here's her win in a Cuddle Stakes.
Yeah, she does. And if you go back to a number of her performances, one race that even stands out as the day that she was beaten in the Zuzu Stakes, where she actually beat home Pearl of Alsace that day. She ran 5th, Hayo Sassbomb. Pearl of Alsace actually ran 6th. A race that was won by Campionessa. But yeah, this is her winning the Cuddle Stakes. GTM Blues also in this race, will go around at a big price, but still does a nice enough job to be able to work home closer to the rail. She's drawn barrier number 1, and if she can use that, surely that must give her a huge chance of just following the rail. She gets 3 back the fence somewhere along those lines. She has to be a chance of your trifectas and first fours keeping her safe because of just where she maps and where she can potentially land here. So, first time right-handed, first time Ellerslie, all those sorts of things are going to be the little red flags next to Hayo Sassbomb, but I don't doubt her ability.
No, and last race replay we want to have a look at, Steve, is the Rangitoto Classic, and this is Town Crier finishing 2nd.
I thought this was a very brave performance. Considering the race shape, they've gone extremely hard here, 7 lengths above open class to the 600. They've come home at an even tempo as well, 35 and change. The overall class rating was very strong. Jafera, the winner. Punters identified this race on the back of the class rating when she went out close to favourite last Saturday in the Group 2 at Tauranga. Look at Town Crier stuck on. Really did stick on to its game. It finished 2nd there. It really did set up for those horses in the neutral position, including the winner and the 3rd and 4th galloper. But Town Crier, out of those 2 or 3 horses that were leading throughout that race, she was the one to stick on with a 2nd and 3rd horse in the map, finished way back down the track. So she is my 2nd play in the race, Town Crier. And again, she's one horse that's proven at Ellerslie since the reshaping of the track and the redevelopment. So I think she leads from there, BP, and then obviously Belclair will have options. Trail was 2nd outer. I think these 2 can get it even enough up front. They don't need to go in terms of a crawl up front. They can just set up an even tempo to the 600 and be hard to catch. Yeah,
and again, she's a horse who's got good runs on the board, hasn't she? She's got really good black type next to her name. You know, when you've got a performance where you're beating Prowess and her performances since then throughout the season, boy, they really do stand out, don't they, with Town Crier? And so you make a really good case for her. It's interesting, isn't it? Because you've got these runners at the top of the market, horses like Mustang Valley, Group 1 performer. Pearl of Alsace is a runner that's performed in Australia well and has got some Group 1 print next to her name, but Belclair, a winner of the race last year, a Group 1 performer, won here. Away from those horses, it's actually quite an even field. I mean, we haven't mentioned Grail Seeker yet. Grail Seeker is a horse that's a 3-year-old filly going from the Wellington Guineas into this race. And look, she was a horse that was slightly forgotten about, really, wasn't she? She went round at a price that she probably shouldn't have. It looked like she was on an Oaks path. They pulled away from that, freshened her up, and she was able to win really well. And I want to come to you with one horse, Stephen. Maria Farina. Now, she got a great course record. We saw a gun ride from Sam Weatherly aboard this horse when getting it just right. He knows this horse to be able to get that sprint bang on with her. They're pushing out to 1,600 metres. They've said that they wanted to give it a go. If they can get it bang on with her, what sort of chance do you give Maria Farina over the 1,600?
Oh, gee, I put her on the same bracket as Fashion Shoot. Obviously, very dynamic over 1,100 metres. As you say, needs that right run in transit from barrier 8. They won't even be able to sit neutral with her. They'll have to go back to the last third, maybe 2nd, 3rd, last at best. And I don't know, there's some very good mares that are going to be in front of her. I'm just willing to take a set round Ellerslie in terms of her map. When she wins, it's very special and hard and tough on the heart.
In the mouth.
But I just don't like quite the setup. 16, the unknown, and just where she maps at HQ.
You've got 2 bets in the race. What are they?
Town Crier and Belclair. Just purely on the map, I think they can get away with a fairly soft time in front. They don't have to crawl, as I say, but just set up a nice even tempo to the 600. And I think if you back them both in a 1x2, 1x3 play, you'll come out on top.
Okay, BP, your final thoughts on the thoroughbred breeders this year?
Yeah, I'm going to have two bets as well, actually, and one of them is Belclair. I just feel as though the horse, like Stephen said, the map just sets up beautifully around her. She enjoys Ellerslie. I think the other horse is Pearl of Alsace. It is the favourite, but I just feel as though the way that this horse has performed here can be an improver again. She's a genuine winner. She can go close as well. But yeah, it really is going to be a super race. Can't wait for it. The Group 1, the New Zealand Thoroughbred Breeders.
Hey, I got a lot of faith in you. I'll stick with you, kid, that's the
Lance O'Sullivan Award time for another week. BP, who have you found? Who's the lucky jockey?
I've gone down south this week. I'm going back to last Saturday out of Riverton, and boy, what a day out did Corey Campbell have, and this was all just capped off with this gun ride aboard Burgee. Now, it was a ride where the horse got back deep on the rail and had to get all the right breaks at the right time, but once, and there's the horse there in runner number 6, who was buried back on the inside, had to come across heels, and once it got to the centre part of the track, boy, it was very good to the line. So it was an inch perfect ride, you could say, from Corey Campbell. And this, of course, was off the back of winning with Mayor of Norwood, who's been able to come screaming down the outside and get up and beat Sacred Dream. So both of them really were super rides. A day out for Corey, and it was capped off by this win aboard Burgee. And what was the feature race on the program down there, the Valachi Down South Island Thoroughbred Breeders' Stakes.
Yeah, well done to Burgee, well done to the Andertons, and well done to Corey Campbell, this week's recipient of the Lance O'Sullivan Award. Okay, team, race number 2 on the cards. The next one we want to have a look at, Barfoot and Thompson, 1,400 metres. Steve, for the 3-year-olds.
Your static market here, Thaddeus, headed by the mare Miami Bell at 380 in front of New Millennium, who really did stand up at Trent the last start. It stakes company at $4. Darcy's Angel at $5.15. Nefetti back in trip at $8 off a peak at 8.5. Looking at this middle market, Imperial Impress, an interesting runner, but is due accepted, likely to run in race 1, but currently at $9 price. Outside that, there's not really too much to speak of. She turns heads, best of the rest at 9. But overall summary, fairly quiet in the early doors of trading, but there's a little lead towards Nefetti, which has been the trend with this horse during the working week.
Okay, you touched on Grail Seeker, BP. Pretty strong form reference around our first replay here. New Millennium finishing 3rd.
Yeah, look, New Millennium was a horse that was very good 2 starts ago when winning, and went into this race at monster odds and was able to finish into 3rd position. Grail Seeker was really good here, coming between runners, aided by a good ride from the Australian jockey. And New Millennium just did everything correctly, saved ground, and was able to finish into 3rd position. So this is a big drop back in company with what we've seen here from that race, the Wellington Guineas to this weekend. So she's a filly that's in the right sort of form. A very intriguing race, isn't it? I mean, Miami Bell has been rather costly the last few starts, and I know that both you and I, Thad, are in this bracket at the moment with Miami Bell. So do you go again? Now, she's a horse that, look, she's got it. Now, I think there's no doubting that. The way she won first up, she showed that she has got the ability there, and she has to overcome a bit of a sticky gate. I thought the way things panned out here, she was in the right position, and she was about to come underneath runners. We know that the horse who finishes 2nd in this race loves running 2nd, and Butterfield came off speed and was able to blow them away, which was, I guess, a surprise to everyone, seeing Butterfield do that as opposed to leading all the way throughout. So just what happens map-wise, where does she position up? I guess there's just all those little queries against Miami Bell, but gee, I don't doubt her that she's a horse that will get to a good grade eventually.
Yeah, well, whether my money will be on will be the next question after the last couple. BP, what do you make of Miami Bell, Steve? We'll get back to New Millennium just in a second, but Miami Bell, your thoughts there? I say costly. Maybe I'm talking through my pocket.
Oh, no, look, she's been a well-backed commodity in both her runs returning this preparation. She's drawn barrier 1 and 3 in those 2 starts, and they've basically ridden her as the best horse. And she's been okay, to say the least, around Miami Bell. I just thought from that sticky draw, and knowing that there's a little bit of speed underneath the horses of Cannon Hill, the Greenkeeper, even Secure Season, and definitely Ep30, I think those 4 or 5 will look to show some intent for the first furlong or two. I don't know, if I was Ryan, I'd be just riding this horse a little bit more neutral, quieter. She's been the first 2 or 3 at Mudda Mudda and also last start at Ellerslie. I just would like to see her in a little bit of cold in that neutral position and chase come the business end of the race. There's no doubt she's got the ability and she could win this race, and you'd look at her and go, how did she start that price? But she has been costly, and it's whether you want to go to the well once again. But for me, just looking at the race shape in general, and they did go fairly hard last start at Ellerslie, and she boxed on well. She was 1 out, 1 back. The leader and the second horse of the map finished behind her, and she was game, and a few of those horses that finished in front of her came from just off speed. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd just be riding her a little bit colder this time.
Okay, and I just want to get your thoughts around New Millennium quickly, because it's tricky, or you talk to me about it from a pricing perspective. When you've come out and performed at a high level at a huge price, $70, how do you approach that when you're trying to frame New Millennium up in a race like this?
What I've learned over the years is that any 3-year-old dropping back from a black type race and performing is quite hard in the market. A lot of the syndicates, the pros, like to identify those horses. So you look at this race as in general, she may be the only horse from memory that is coming out of a black type race, New Millennium. So that will get a few punters keen on her. And the fact that she did perform, I know she paid, what, 70 odd bucks in the Group 2 at Trentham, but yeah, when they're 3-year-olds and they're still increasing their performance rating, SPs is not everything.
Yeah, okay. And the last replay, BP, is Darcy's Angel. And we've already mentioned the horse that won the race a couple of times today in Hat-Trick. Here's Darcy's Angel finishing 3rd in the maiden as at.
It's good form, isn't it? I mean, we're going to be talking a lot about these hat-trick form lines, because there's 3 very good wins from the horse, and horses that have finished in behind are going to line up in races where they look very winnable chances. And Darcy's Angel is just a horse that, again, just might be one of those types that can find the right races. Bumped into a couple of these maiden as at races already this preparation. A sticky barrier draw, just a sticky gate for the horse, but that was a last start placing here at this venue, so she's had a sighter around Ellerslie. She becomes an each way chance in the race. Look, I do like Ep30. I think Ep30 is one of those horses that, look, they tried and thought about trying to get it to an Oaks. They pushed her out to the distance in the Sunline Vase, of course, last time to the races. The best way to try and find out to see if they could get a trip is maybe find her getting into that forward position to see if she could keep rolling. She was a runner that was beaten in that race last time out. She was beaten in the Oaks Prelude as well. Just feel like this is a really good setup for her, because look how good she was when she won coming back in trip. Was it 1600 metres Hawke's Bay? She really did play with them. So I think she's backable. She's floating around that $8 mark. She really does present as an each way chance, I thought, for mine.
Plenty are backing her at $8. I mean, 2100 back to 14 would put a few off. Steve, thoughts on the Ep30?
I see. Definitely the back step back and trip is ideal. We took a set against her over 2,000 metres. Look, she's yet to smash the clock. We know it's a betting trend around her with the syndicate obviously involved, that they like to get in early around the Ep30. That will dry up on race day, but look, it's hard to determine her SP knowing that she's dropping back. But again, one of these horses, as I said on the fave, is dropping back out of group class company. So, yeah, it's a tricky race.
There's plenty in single figures here, sorry, yeah.
Or even Cyclone. Look at the races it's been running in. 2 starts ago, finished a close placing in behind Sabina. That race at Taupo, West End, was a place getter, and Cyclone didn't have all favours up the rail when finishing 4th. So she brings enough form lines, and she's going to get a nice run from barrier 1 with Joe Doyle doing the riding there. So I think naturally with her profile and John Barry bringing a horse up to Auckland, she may drift to double figures, but look, I wouldn't be ruling her out. And if she got out to ridiculous quote in the mid-teens, that might be the one I'd play, but it's a no bet thus far.
Okay, well, Imperial and
Cannon Hill, good boys. I mean, this was a bit Molly Bloom, for instance. Last day of the Hawke's Bay Spring Carnival, Cannon Hill at the top of the book. So, it's a highly competitive race. Yeah, look, I'm going to Ep30. I'm just going to have a little play on that on the each way on the Ep30 is the thinking here with the good draw. Yeah, happy to play that 1x2 play around here.
Okay, and Steve, you're no bet at this stage.
No bet at this stage, while keeping a close eye on the 8 cycle.
An Imperial Impress that will look like it probably will start in race 1. Or are you assuming that at this point?
Yeah, no jock for race 2, and I think Stephen Marsh throughout the week has been talking to the media that it's bonus eligible for race 1, so they'll be leaning towards that race.
Okay, BP's given us a little bet in the second of the day, and that's Isnafetti.
Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free.
Behind them, 3 lengths away to Switzerland.
And on the fence. Oh, on the fence, yeah. I see. Come on, Stormboy. Come on, he's on the fence. Come on, come on. Go, Stormboy. Go. The filly. He's got it.
She was doing hard time for a minute there, gay BP, wasn't she?
I reckon it's the funniest thing I've seen. It's so good, isn't it? Obviously we're wanting Stormboy to get there, but of course forgetting the fact that Gay had about 6 horses in the race, and here comes Lady of Camelot down the outside, the filly, getting the prize. I think we've all been there, team. Surely we've been there. I've certainly been there in a quaddie where I was sort of concentrating on a couple of others. Maybe one of them because it's running through a multi, and then they're getting run down, but they're getting run down by something else that you've got. So I haven't won. Yes, I have won, right on the line. So yeah, that was funny stuff.
Yeah, fantastic footage to see around Gay Waterhouse in a golden slipper. And yes, she won't be doing it too hard after a Lady of Camelot, her other one, managed to take out this year's edition.
You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there.
Your turn, Steve, to crunch some numbers for us. What have you found for this week?
I just want to focus in on the Vinery, Orchestral versus Zardozi, 2 very progressive 3-year-old fillies, staying fillies. And here I've just brought up a graph of where they sit in terms of performance rating this preparation. You've got Orchestral there, column 1. That was going way back early into its preparation this season. In a Gold Trail recorded a 76.6. Start 2 had a bit of a freshen up, ran second to Bone Crusher and behind Lupo Solitario. Then on New Year's Day, won over 1,600 metres and performed at 93 level. Then it really spiked when it got over 2,000 metres. Orchestral, the daughter by Zavabeel. Avondale Guineas, 98 performance rating, and then peaked at 101.5 for the New Zealand Derby. You compare that to Zardozi. Now, different preparation. Zardozi, you see there, column 3, she had a 101.5 performance rating, and that was going back in November when she won the Victorian Oaks. So she sits identically in terms of a peak number with Orchestral over 2,500 metres. The difference is, Zardozi, she had the 2 runs back 1,500 metres, and she's regressed in her performance rating, 97.5. So in terms of this time in, Orchestral has the form on the board this preparation, where Zardozi she just has to perform and return to that big spike she produced in the spring this time in. So
Interesting if they both get to the Oaks then, back to 2,400 metres. Could Zardozi bring that rating back up to challenge something like Orchestral?
Yeah, possibly. It's there historically, so you can't say no. Interesting enough, and I don't have numbers to support this. This is just a little bit off the cusp, but I reckon Kiwi horses that have come out in New Zealand Derby and gone to Sydney normally peak first up and then regress second up. A lot of them go back and trip from 2,400 to 2,000, whether it's in a Rosehill Guineas or a Vinery if you're a filly. So I reckon Zardozi's best chance of beating Orchestral this time in is in the Oaks over 2,400 metres, when again Orchestral has to go back up and trip. But look, I've heard during the week that James Cummings, that they've identified Zardozi was lethal on the quick back up, and you saw that when she won the Wakefield and then went on to win the Victorian Oaks, that 6-7 day back up. Well, she could be a filly that runs in the Vinery, win, lose or draw, back up in the Derby, and then also back up in the Oaks. So she'll run in 3 weekends on the bounce. But regardless, I think Orchestral's just...
They won't be beating her on Saturday.
I don't think so, and even come the Oaks, she'll be very hard to beat.
Pops?
Yeah, just around that, Stephen, around the Derby. I mean, of course, the Tulloch Stakes has been horses where we've seen a lot of those Derby horses go to that race, don't they? They run so well in that and then back up. We know that Andrew Forsman's had success and Murray Baker doing exactly that, and of course that's over 2,000 metres. So, yeah, you make a great point. And gee, what about Antrim Coast just riding under the guard? Boy, when that won, oh man, I just about drove off the road when I heard that horse paid $41 when I was driving back from Tauranga. I was like, you're kidding me? How have we missed this? It runs second to Orchestral in the Derby and has paid $41, beating. What was it? The horse again, Quintessa, wasn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, look, the form's already stood up, and I think the Australians are very, very much aware of Orchestral being in town.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. There's been plenty of talk about it on social media, as there should be. That Aintree Coast thing that BP, I wish he hadn't brought that up. $41, ridiculous price. Hope you got some. Okay, team, race number 1 at Ellerslie, the third race we want to have a look at. That's the Entain NZB Insurance Pearl Series final over the 1,400 metres, Steve. Yeah,
again, a static market, just like the previous we've touched on race 2. CS Moy favourite here at 3.8, or equal fave with the stablemate Imperial Empress. I choose you $4.50 in that third line, Modernise at $6.50, Grey Haze 8.5, Pax Mundi at $9. And a Tate Interesting Runner resumes here for John Morrell at $14. And then outside that, Composure also at $18, I should mention. But yeah, no strong lead here thus far. It's a bit of a watch race, knowing that you've got two stablemates leading the market, 3.8 each of 2.
Yeah, okay. Samoa BP resumed with a third at Ellerslie. And this was it. Had to do it sort of tough. Peaked on the run a little bit, but it was a good effort.
Yeah, it was a good run. And this is a horse who's going to have to go up, 3.5 kilograms on this run. But gee, first up, a horse who was able to produce this gets back and gets to the outside part of the track. Yeah, you're right. Just the last couple of 100 metres was coming to the end of it. But look, she's run very good sectionals to this point. Of course, through the 8, 6 and the 4. It was a very good run first up. Now, she's got first up form. She's shown that beforehand, where she's been able to run really well fresh up, and she's been placed second up, also has Samoa. I guess the biggest danger for her is drawn better, and that being Imperial Empress. And that horse was enormous as well last time to the races, but gee, that horse it really got me with how well she ran at Ellerslie last time. So I'm actually really divided. I can't split both of these favourites at the top of this market.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at the stable, mate, because there's probably been slightly more money for it, Steve, at this stage, and that's Imperial Empress. This is her 4th at Tauranga, coming from the back as well.
Yeah, look, I'm willing to trust the eye here. Look, you see there it's all in red to the 600 last 600. The class rating is horrible. But just identifying and isolating the performance as an individual. Look, she was way back, gave the leaders, 5, 6, 7 lengths, roughly around the 206, the last 600 metres. But you look at her individual sectionals, her last 400 was the second quickest on the day, and her last 200, she was the only horse on that particular meeting to break 11 seconds, recording 10.84. So, yeah, her closing sectionals were very strong, and I'm leaning towards her. The only reason I stopped her making a clear bet, and possibly my best bet, was the draw. Barrier 1. There's just no speed in this race, but I could see her still getting back into a niggly position. 2 back would be ideal, but I think she's probably going to go 3 back. But it does have the services Michael McNabb, so it takes a little bit out of that query. I've got no doubt. I reckon I've got no doubt she's the best horse in this race. And in 12 months' time, she'll be a stakes company filly or then mare. A few of these horses already found their ceiling, but she is a group class mare on the sectionals that she's been able to produce already in her light career. She just hasn't got that overall speed rating figure yet, but her closing sectionals, she's been comparable to the best on the day, and that was including at Mudda as well. So, yeah, just side winkers on. Maybe that's a gear change to try and get some positivity and intent in the first furlong or 2. But the map probably just stopped me from almost declaring it.
Okay, interesting. The third race replayers of our third favourite BP, and it was good to see this horse back in the winner's circle. I Choose You at Trentham. Got the big weight here though.
Look, it does. It's got to carry 61 kilos, so it actually goes up, 6 kilos up on this rating 75 victory. But it was just, as you said, just good to see her back in the form that we've been wanting to see from her, because she's a horse who's competed in really good races as a 3-year-old. Of course, you go back to her runs as a 3-year-old filly, where she was, of course, stakes place in a Barneswood farm. She was a horse who was good enough to compete in races like the Almanzor behind Maven Bell on Karaka Million Night, all those type of 3-year-old races. So she was close enough, and she was placed in a couple of those races. And then she's been able to find her best form again first up to the races. It is a step up again, though, isn't it? And of course, it's a step up in weight for her. It's quite a tricky race to work out with her having such, a massive weight increase, but she's got some class in her side. Same Wire is the same also, and then a couple of other runners that are all chasing these bonuses here with the first race, with it being a Pearl Series bonus and a nice bonus attached to it. I think Stephen's right. Pearl Impress gives you that indication that there's something about her. She's got something where she looks like she can be a really nice horse going forward. Such an unlucky run last time to the races. If she can get that right piece of luck, she's a big chance in the race. I think Same Wire does have the right-handed credentials, and we saw that run last time to the races at Ellerslie, where she had a good sighter around there. But she's actually had, 7 starts going right-handed at race venues like Avondale and Uruakaka and Pukekohe. For 3 wins and a couple of placings. So her best way of going is the Ellerslie way of going. And if she can just slide and get into a better spot, and maybe if the favourite Imperial Impress is in a bit of a niggly position, she might be able to have that chance to get away on. So I think tactically, with where these 2 horses land, Imperial Impress and Same Wire, is going to be a key point of this race.
Okay, Steve, anything else we need to talk about? The Modernisers, the Grey Hazers, the Pax Mundis? Anyone else in commission
it's just a sticky map. I'm not sure who's going to have the default lead here. Possibly Pax Mundi from Barrier 3 with Lily riding, but that's no confidence. But I think it could unfold as fairly tactical. Just on the fave, and CS Moore, she is a victim of her own race style. She does regress second up. She's lethal first up, and she didn't quite get the bickies. So I think Connections will be a little bit disappointed there. And just on I Choose You, which naturally goes back to my Imperial Impress selection, is I Choose You, all her best numbers have been over 11 and 1200 metres, and with that big weight, albeit she'll get a gun run with Opie aboard from that draw. I just want to take a set against her over 1400.
Okay, Steve, with Imperial Impress, BP, how have you landed in race 1 of the day?
Same Wire and Imperial Impress both to run top 4. 220 is the power play there. So look, it's a rather safe play. So happy to run with that at 2.2.
Over's God's time for another week. Have they been smiling upon us? Well, gee, they have if you were having a bet at Tauranga last week. We'll start with Riverton, though. Rosa Dublin, 26 into $9 against the Tiakau pair. There was money for it first up. There was again money for it second up, Rosa Dublin. I don't think we quite got the price right either at $26, but watch out for Rosa Dublin. There's obviously a bit of smoke and fire. Texas Dolly race number 3, 8 into $4, fifth, unfortunately. Gee, here's the horse Steve mentioned, $2.50 into $1.60. One of the hardest backed of the day was Mystic Park, and got the job done well. Matt Scott got a deserved win, and $3.50 into $2.40. And they nearly pulled it off in the last race for Stephen Marsh and his team and his supporters. Miss Nico Bell just knocked off 13 though into $5.50. Here's a nice string of winners if you were having a bet at Tauranga. BP and Paul both like Grun Gallo in the first of the day, 7 into $4.20 and got the chocolates. Amber Wright won like a $2 shot, $6.50 into $3.80. Dark Destroyer, good run resuming, got the wet track at probably favours, and the 16 into 5. It was a nice resuming run for fifth, and they got this right in the last race of the day. Complicate, 16 into $3.60 and managed to land first. So nice day to be betting at Tauranga, and as BP alluded to earlier, no deductions, no surprises. That certainly helped a few up there last Saturday. Okay, team, last race we want to have a look at is the Riverton Cup, Steve. Race number 8 on the card. Run us through this market.
Track conditions?
Oh, sorry, quite right. I've jumped the gun. Weather and track at Riverton, how's it looking?
They've had plenty of rain in the last 7 days. Look, the odd shower between now and race day, but look, I don't think it's going to impact the track anymore, even though it's still currently a heavy 10. So look, it could be that holding surface around Riverton on Saturday, knowing that there's little rainfall on race day. But yeah, look, I'd be definitely targeting those horses that appreciate a bit of that heavy track form line.
Okay, cue 'em. Now's my time. Race number 8, the Kennedy Building Riverton Cup, Steve. 2,147 metres. It's a big weekend down at Riverton. Run us through this market.
Yeah, Prince Albie heads the market fractionally in front of Shikalia at $2.80, where Prince Albie's $2.70, and Prince Albie holds 4 times more money than Shikalia. In that third line, Capo del Impero at $7 off a shortener of 6. The big mover happens to be in the fourth line, number 8, Astrodial. 14, halved that quote, now trading at $7. Worst way home for the TAB, obviously, with that natural high lay price. Lockenberry, double figures, $11. Humbucker, fairly soft, 13 out to 16. Best of the rest is the Tui Toiler at $18. So, look, overall summary, Prince Albie at the point end of the market, best back runner. But in terms of a clear firm, it sits with number 8 in Astrodial.
Okay, Shikalia is our favourite BP. The first race we want to have a look at is the Wyndham Cup. And it's been in tremendous form, Shikalia, winning 3 from its last 4, but a few competitors were in this one.
Yeah, you're right. Look, this horse has been in super form. You know, when you go through the Southern Cups, this was the Wyndham Cup. It's a runner that's been placed in the Invercargill Gold Cup. It was winning the Dunedin Gold Cup, so it's just been in a great piece of form. I think the one big thing we have to mention here with this horse is going to be the track conditions for Saturday. Is that the runners had one start on a heavy track and it was an unplaced effort. There is soft ground form next to the horse's name, where the horse has won 3 times on soft ground. But you know, of course, you know the soft bracket starting from soft 5. So I think that's got to be the big question mark. Donovan Cooper gets weight relief. No doubting the horse's ability. I think this horse is airborne at the moment, really, with the efforts we've seen through those races. I just wonder, with the heavy track conditions, do we get to see the same type of performances from the horse? Yeah, that would be my one query against a sort of a Prince Albie, where I think Prince Albie's one of those horses that we know can get through the ground. It's a horse that Kelvin Tyler's always had a lot of time for, and boy, even that horse that's been moved in the market, Astrodial. I mean, I think that horse cleaned them up at this meeting last year on an undercard meeting, and does have wet track form. So that would be my one little fear with Shikalia, is just with the track conditions in that heavy bracket.
Okay, here is Prince Albie BP. We can stay with you because here's a horse, as you mentioned, that won't mind what it strikes, and currently a $2.70 favourite. Yeah,
look, I remember, must have been a couple, 3-4 years ago, when this horse was having its first start or second start at Riverton. Might have been at the Cambridge Trots, and I tell you what, the word was out for a horse by the name of Prince Albie, one of the best horses Kelvin Tyler's ever put a saddle on, and it was $12 in a maiden race, and it was just getting pumped, and it was one of the bets. It was one of the bets of the Easter weekend. Who wanted an Easter treat? Come and get on Prince Albie. Well, of course, it was late scratch. It got round to the start and everyone was just waiting for this horse. I think something happened around at the barriers and it was late scratch. So I've always remembered that day with Prince Albie, and he's a horse that I've kept on side. And look, he's a runner that he's running some good races this year. You've only got to go through his northern form. Of course, he competed in the Wellington Cup, but he's running some dead set good staying races this year, and he's run with a lot of credit, hasn't he? That first up run was enormous. I thought over 1,500 metres after coming back from a staying trip. He'll get conditions he'll like. Yeah, I think he's a big hope.
Prince Albie, Steve, before we look at the last replay, I mean, he'll love a heavy track, no doubt.
That was a good win. You know, he was dropping back from 2 miles from the Wellington Cup in the mid to late Jan, and then dropped back to 1,500 metres. Got the job done. The race was run at a fairly good clip, so that helped him getting over the line over 1,500 metres. But look, he sits quite well in the weights, considering there's the presence of Capo del Impero with the high rating, and also, or should I say, also, yeah. So look, and also gets the heavy track. So I think there'll be genuine separation between the first and second favourite. I know there's only 1 turn between them currently, but I think there'll be separation. It might not be purely around Prince Albie shortening. It might be just the fact that the second fave, Shikalia, will drift. Okay, let's have a look at the Invercargill Gold Cup, Steve. I can stay with you here. Lockenberry, Shikalia was in this as well. And Astrodial, the big short here, ran 4th in the race. Yeah, Shikalia here, which you didn't see, from the 600 metre mark, had to make a long sustaining sprint and covered extra ground. So it was a bit of a sitting duck coming into the home straight, and Lockenberry a little bit wayward there at the 200 metre mark, got the job done, came off heels of Shikalia and got a far better run in transit. And there is a massive weight swing in favour of Shikalia. I think it meets Lockenberry 7 kilograms better off this time round versus the Invercargill Gold Cup. With Estradiol, well, she's a tricky horse because she maps horribly quite often. She'll be last rail, and the jockey quite often looks for that rails run and the gaps opening. No doubt her best figures are clearly on a heavy track. She's just so superior on a heavy track, and she's down in the weights as well. So you've got to respect that move, 14-7. In terms of heavy tracks, she actually sits second best seed in the race in behind Prince Albie. So I can understand the move. Just unsure what Tina will do from barrier 10, because like I say, when you've watched her win, and even at this corresponding meeting last year, which BP has already mentioned, she loves that hugging run along the rail. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Tina does from barrier 10, but got to respect the move.
Yeah, decent move on Estradiol, BP.
Yeah, gee, $14, right jockey aboard. Those that were there 12 months ago that might have been on it will be probably keen to line up and have something on too, and just excels in these track conditions. That is really the key point for the horse, isn't it? And if it can get the right run through them, boy, it might be the horse you needed to be on at $14. It was a tidy enough run, wasn't it, in the Invercargill Gold Cup, finishing into 4th position, back on the rail, doing all its best work, and now gets the conditions to suit. So. Yeah, as I said, maybe look for some power plays in this race. This might be a great power play race if you're trying to find something with Estradiol to run in that top 4, and if you're liking either Shikalia or a Prince Albie, either of those to win, or maybe one of those to run top 2 with Estradiol to run top 4, could be a way to play it. But if you're looking for one, pretty keen to have something on Prince Albie. Okay,
your final thoughts here, Steve? Who have you got on top in the race?
Oh, look, I think you've got to go with Prince Albie. I think he's just well placed with the weights, with, like I say, the presence of Kipadel and Pero. But you've got to respect Estradiol. I think those two stand out just purely on speed ratings on a heavy deck.
Okay, both of the boys with Prince Albie in this year's Riverton Gold Cup, but watch out for that big move around Estradiol. Foreplay time on the leg up for another week. No gold for us last week. We were out early in the foreplay, and I took Has to Be a Winner, I think, in the last race at Tauranga. Top 4, 6 horses, and it finished 5th. But we're already out by then, so of course that didn't matter. Okay, your chance to win a $100 bonus bet multi. That'll be a nice way to celebrate your Easter with our 4 good things of the weekend. Head to the TAB Facebook page, interact with the leg up question. This week it'll be your favourite Thoroughbred Breeders winner, and you could be in to win this $100 4-leg multi. That'll start with you, BP. Who have you got as your good thing?
I'm going to go with Marengo. This horse has had 4 starts as preparation. He's run favourite on all 4 occasions, and he's been desperately short all 4 times, and he's run second. I probably should have taken him to run top 2, but I'll go top 3 at $1.55 for Marengo in race 4.
Yeah, okay, good safety near around Marengo. Paul's gone Mr. Mozart, race number 3 on the card, top 4. A third, a second, building nicely for the Nick Bashara teams. I think Mr. Mozart is not a bad play from Paul. I've seen worse from Paul. Steve?
I have to agree, but race 6 I'll go to the feature. The Tiata Breeders, Belclair just maps beautifully, obviously leads, trails or sits outside leader, so ideally in the top 2, and she'll be hard to run